Hi guys, welcome. And who dat? I'm Joe, and today I'm going to be presenting a list of the best quarterbacks in college that are expected to come out in the 2025 NFL Draft. We're going to be looking at 13 quarterbacks. We're going to be talking about the expected rounds in which each quarterback is supposed to be taken, and we're going to try to figure out whether the Saints, with a high draft pick, should take a quarterback in the upcoming draft. This franchise has a lot of holes. We have a lot of needs. And I'm pretty sure the fan base as a whole understands that regardless of how you feel about Derek Carr or even Spencer Rattler, for that matter, when you have a chance to pick in the top 10 in an NFL draft, it's your best chance to get one of the best quarterbacks in the class and a potential franchise guy, right? So I figure we'll take a look at the best quarterbacks in college this year, and I've checked several sites, try to figure out where these guys are projected to go, and combined everything, and we're going to present the list. We're going to talk about the measurements. We're going to talk about the stats that they have right now, and this is prior to the opening November weekend games. So there are going to be some games played tomorrow, and quite honestly, until the college football season's over with, the projections for these quarterbacks will change with each game, especially if it's a championship or a bowl. And then, of course, after the season is over, you're still going to have the scouting combine and senior bowl and stuff like that. So a lot of these will change. But I wanted to do an early look because it's never too early this year to examine how the Saints can better as a team because we know we need to get better. I don't expect the Saints to go on some crazy winning streak this year. I expect them to finish with a top 15 pick. I expect them to finish like they always do, 7 and 10, and then you get the 12th or 13th pick. But there's a chance this team keeps performing this badly that we'll have a top 10 pick. So should we spend it on a quarterback? I'm going to pull up the list of the 13 quarterbacks that we're going to talk about. And I'm going to put them in order based on how these sites view them. And we'll talk about all of them. So that's your total list right there. And there's probably five quarterbacks on this list, the top five, that are mentioned in a first round kind of way. So, and actually, there's a lot of rumblings to say that number six, number seven, and number eight on this list could be first round picks as well. And not to mention Gabriel Dillon way at the bottom of this list. So, yeah, let's get into it. Number one on the list is Shadir Sanders out of Colorado. He's 6'2", 215 pounds. He's projected to go in the top 10. He's consistently one of the best 10 to 15 players on everyone's list. So he's definitely going to be taken early in the draft. I like Sanders. I think he's okay. He seems quick, but he doesn't have a lot of rushing yards in his career. He's got three rushing touchdowns this year, but he actually has negative rushing yards for the year. His passing numbers, he is 73.3% completion percentage, which is really, really good. Of all the quarterbacks I've looked at, that's second best, 73.3% completion. He has 2,591 passing yards, 2,591. And that's right around kind of average for these quarterbacks. He's one of the only quarterbacks that have thrown for 20 touchdowns so far. Like I said, this is right before the weekend, so everything's going to change after this weekend. But for now, Sanders has 21 touchdowns and six interceptions. Sanders is a good player. I'm not sold on him being a franchise quarterback, and that's the problem I have with this class is I don't see a lot of these guys as franchise quarterbacks. You never know. Somebody could develop or somebody can surprise. But that's your number one guy right there, Shadur Sanders. Now, maybe Sanders isn't your favorite quarterback coming out of college. He's not your favorite on this list. This is the way it is right now. If the Saints pick in the top 10 and they're looking for a quarterback, Sanders would be on the top of that list. Next is Cam Ward for the Miami Hurricanes. They are 8-0 right now. Colorado is 6-2. Uh, Cam Ward and the Hurricanes are 8-0. Cam Ward has thrown for 68% completion, which is good. 2,746 yards. Cam Ward leads this list in passing touchdowns. He has 24 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. Cam Ward looks like a really good player, and this is his first year with Miami. He's been with 2 other colleges before Miami. 68% completion, 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He looks like he's in control of everything. He's got to be a real smart guy to bounce around from college to college and still be producing. And per- personally, I think Ward is the best quarterback on this list. If I had my choice between Sanders and Ward, I would go with Ward. Both of those guys, Sanders and Ward, are perennial first round picks, according to everyone, and generally in the top 10, top 15. So Sanders and Ward are your top 2 quarterbacks here. Next on the list, in consensus here, is Jalen Milroe and the 6-2 Alabama. So we watched Jalen Milroe play. We've watched him play for a while. I don't know. Are some of you guys really excited about Milroe? I mean, if you are, that's great. He is getting first round buzz because he's one of the best, quarterbacks in this class. And to me, I think after Sanders and Ward, yeah, I'm willing to wait till the second round. That's how I feel. Jalen Milroe this year has thrown for 67.5 completion percentage, which is good. 1,937 yards. Milroe has 13 touchdowns passing, 6 interceptions. So 13 passing touchdowns, not very good. Milroe, on the other hand, has 380 rushing yards and 12 rushing touchdowns. So that is the dynamic for Milroe. And you could get that dynamic from a lot of these quarterbacks, and maybe they're just not doing it a lot in college. But yeah, Milroe's the guy that's going to tuck and run. Milroe's the guy you're going to design runs for. And yeah, he's got 13 passing touchdowns, 12 rushing touchdowns. So he can score a lot of touchdowns, but you kind of depend on him doing it with his feet. That kind of quarterback to me scares me. The fact that he could get hurt at any time. But I just watch him in these games with Alabama, and sometimes he has really good games, but most of the time he seems horribly inconsistent. So I wouldn't take Milroe to the second round, and so that's what this exercise is about. If you're going to take a quarterback in the top 10 and you're the Saints, which one of these guys are you going to spend that pick on? You guys let me know in the comments how you feel about Sanders, Ward, and Milroe. Next on my list is Carson Beck. Carson Beck gets some top 10 buzz, and he's also a first round projection. By the way, Ward is 6'2", 223. Milroe is 6'2", 225. So every quarterback I've mentioned so far is 6'2". Sanders is a touch lighter than the other two, but 6'2" is perfect for a quarterback. You'd like for them to be taller, but I'm not going to overdraft a guy because he's a couple inches taller. Drew Brees was 6 foot, maybe less, so 6'2" is pretty good. Carson Beck is the other guy that gets a lot of first round buzz. He's 6'4", 220 pounds. I'm not a fan of Beck as well. I mean, Georgia's 6-1, and Beck is 66% completion, 1,993 yards. Beck has 15 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. So um, you can see the traits. You can see why a team might want to take a chance on him in the first round. You're picking in the top 10 and you want a franchise quarterback and you get Carson Beck. I mean, good luck. This whole class to me reminds me of like a bunch of Anthony Richardsons. I mean, Richardson can run, but as far as a passer goes, I mean, you're not quite sure what you're going to get. Yeah, Beck seems like he's fine, but Milrow can be really good at times. Ward looks really good this year, and Sanders looks really good this year. But both of them have been playing football for 4 years, 5 years, and yeah, hot and cold, inconsistent. It's tough, but I mean, I'm putting this out for you guys so you guys can look at this and then make up your minds. The next guy on the list is Quinn Ewers. Texas is 7-1. Ewers is 69.1% completion. He's only got 1,389 passing yards right now, 14 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So, huge drop off in passing touchdowns from Sanders and Ward. And then you get to Milrow, Beck, and Ewers. Yeah, not not comparable really. But Ewers is almost at 70% completion, so Sanders is the only one on this list so far breaking 70% completion. So Ewers is almost there, but he has the fewest passing yards. Yeah, I'm not sold. I mean, if I've got a high draft pick and I want to get an impact player, there's lots of players in this draft that are just better overall picks. There are some sites that'll put Ewers in the top 30 and Beck in the top 10, top 15, top 30. But most sites have these guys below top 30, like obvious second round projections. But when you're reaching and you need a quarterback, that's why I'm going to mention 13 of them. You never know which one of these is going to end up as an obvious first round projection. But for me, I'm kind of steering clear of all of this. I would rather have Travis Hunter than any of these quarterbacks. I would rather have Ashton Genty at running back than any of these quarterbacks. I might not be changing the face of the franchise by getting a quarterback with this high pick of mine, but I can get a better playmaker, I feel. T Mac out of Arizona seems like he would be a difference maker at wide receiver. And then there's also the option of trading down from that very high pick and getting more picks than you could ever get with any other asset you have. So there's that option as well. This is the quarterback video. Next on the list is Doug Nussmeier's kid, Garrett Nussmeier, 6'2", 200 pounds. Nuss is mentioned in the first round in a couple of sites, but he's got 62.5% completion, which is the worst on this list, besides Connor Wigman. So Nuss's completion percentage isn't very good, in my opinion. 2,627 yards passing. Nuss is one of the only quarterbacks with 20 touchdowns as of Friday, November 1st. So Nuss has 20 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. That 9 interceptions is second highest on this list. So yeah, there's a lot of potential with Nuss, but there's also a lot of production with passing touchdowns. But you know, you look at the completion percentage, you look at the number of interceptions. LSU's 6-2. So would you spend a first round pick on Garrett Nussmeier? I mean, I wouldn't. Not at all. The next guy on the list is Drew Allar. I would probably put him ahead of Nussmeier on my list. I think Allar would be my number 3 guy after Sanders and Ward. Allar for Penn State, 7-0 right now. Allar is a completion percentage of 71.4, which is pretty good. That's third best on this list. Yeah, 71.4%. He's only got 1,640 passing yards. He's got 12 touchdowns, but only four interceptions. I think Alar may have missed a game or two. I'm not sure, but Alar is 6'5", 235 pounds. So he is the monster out of the bunch. Uh, yeah, not a lot of touchdowns right now, but great completion percentage, incredible size, only four interceptions. A lot to like from Drew Alar. Do you take a top 10 pick? Use a top 10 pick on Alar. Next on the list is Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss. Dart is 6'2", 225 pounds. Most of these quarterbacks are 6'2". Ole Miss is 6'2". And Dart has a 70.6% completion percentage, really good, 2,695 yards, a lot of yards passing. Dart has 15 touchdowns and three interceptions. Dart is looking excellent right now. Um, he's not looked at as a guy that's going to run for a lot of yards, but over his career, he's averaged 3.7 a carry. He's got over 1,000 yards rushing in his career and 14 rushing touchdowns over his career. So Dart has that ability, and he's also not turning the ball over, and he's got great completion percentage. So Dart is a guy that might surprise and end up in the first round discussions here, especially if he continues to excel in this season. Next on the list is Miller Moss out of USC, 6'2", 205. USC is 4-4. So out of all the quarterbacks I've mentioned here, USC has the worst record. Moss has thrown for a completion percentage of 65.1, 2,262 yards. He has 16 touchdowns and six interceptions. So USC's struggling as a team, but Miller Moss is doing okay as a quarterback. There's a lot of potential here. There's a lot of potential for all of these guys. Moss would be ninth on the list, and then I was just going to do a top 10, but I can't figure out who to put at number 10. The consensus guy is Connor Weigman, and Texas A&M is 7-2. Weigman is 6'3", 220 pounds, and he is having an awful season this year. Completion percentage of 56.9, which is worst on this list. He only has 782 passing yards. I know he's missed some time with injury, but he's had some time to play too. He's also been pulled when healthy. He only has three touchdowns. He has four interceptions. So people like that 6'3" frame. People like what he's done before, but this year he's struggling. The worst completion percentage on this list, the fewest yards, the fewest touchdowns, and the only one with more interceptions than touchdowns on this list. So I was very excited about Weigman going into the year, and right out of the gate, you could tell this wasn't going to be his season. So I'm not a fan of Weigman. That's why I didn't make a top 10. Because if I went by my consensus numbers, which is what I did for this list, Weigman would have been number 10. And there's three other quarterbacks that have to be mentioned. Uh, Dillon Gabriel out of number one ranked Oregon right now. Oregon's 8-0. The issue with Dillon is he's only 6 foot, 200 pounds. That's the only issue we have with him. Because he's got a completion percentage of 76.2, which is best on this list. He's thrown for 2,371 yards. He has 18 touchdowns and only five interceptions. So, one of the highest in touchdowns, good touchdown interception ratio. At least he's got over 2,000 passing yards and the best completion percentage. And despite his size, his team is looking good. He's looking good. He's running the offense well. That completion percentage of 76.2 is just impressive. And his team's undefeated. So there's maybe one or two sites that think Dillon Gabriel will be a first round pick. I'm assuming because of his size, people don't want to do it. They don't want to go that route. But like I said, he wouldn't make the top 10 on this consensus list, but I had to mention him because he's got the best completion percentage, great touchdown interception right now, good yards, the championship play right now. So would he be a first round contender when it's all said and done? Like I said, we won't know until February and March for sure what's happening with where these guys are going to go. And I'll mention two more quarterbacks here. First, I'll mention Kyle McCord. Out of Syracuse, they're 5-2. McCord is 63.6% completion, 2,481 yards, 19 touchdowns, which is very, very good. But 11 interceptions, and I mean, he had five like last week or the week before in one game, four or five in one game. Awful game. You know, the spotlight's on him now, and then he goes and has that kind of a game, which gives him 11 interceptions for the year, but you can't ignore the fact that he's performing very well. 6'3", 220 pounds, perfect size for quarterback. McCord's going to have some high round buzz if he avoids another five interception game and continues to play like he had been playing. And finally, I'll mention Cade Klubnik, one of my favorite quarterbacks that I see when I'm watching these guys play. Clemson is 6-1. Klubnik is 66.7% completion, 1,836 yards. He has 20 passing touchdowns as of November 1st. 20 touchdowns, three interceptions. That is the best touchdown interception ratio on this list. And he's one of only four players on this list that's broken 20 touchdowns. He has the fewest amount of interceptions on this list. And yeah, Klubnik can run. I didn't write his running numbers down, but he can run. He's got a lot of rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. So you look at that list there, and consensus says that maybe five of them get taken in the first round. Sanders, Ward, Milroe, Beck, Ewers. Nussmeier, Olar, and Dart and Moss are right there, and then you got to consider Dylan as a Gabriel as well. I don't think there's going to be nine quarterbacks taken in the first round in this draft. These guys are just too inconsistent. Beck and Ewers and Milroe don't have enough passing touchdowns for you to be that excited. Neither does Olar. Dart, Dart's got fewer interceptions than Beck. So when it's all said and done, maybe I would take Dart ahead of Beck. It's just one of them things. A lot of these guys will be reached for in the first round. Are the Saints going to be a team that does it? So let me know in the comments which one of these guys you think is worth a top 10 pick. The Saints end up picking 6, 7, 8, and we're in the market for one of these quarterbacks. So how far down this list do you go before you say, no, 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 we got to get another guy, another playmaker, and we'll focus on quarterback later? Because this list that I'm showing you, half of these guys are expected to go in the third round, fourth round. They're not expected to go in the first round. Like I say, only five of them are expected by everybody to go in the first round, and you're really reaching with, in my opinion, Beck, and you're reaching with Ewers. Definitely reaching with Nussmeier. So let me know what you think. I'm going to be doing further videos, future videos about this class that's coming out in 2024 and how the Saints could approach this, and trying to give you guys, all the information I can get on these guys, and help to make up your mind on what you think the team should do. There's a lot of great playmakers at the top of the draft. The next video I do will be the consensus top 10, and we'll be looking at those players. If the Saints pick in the top 10, do you take Shedeur Sanders at quarterback or Cam Ward at quarterback? Or do you risk taking one of those other quarterbacks? Or do you choose somebody else within this top 10 and some great players? And of course, every position is a position in need. For our beloved, bless you boys in black and gold, the New Orleans Saints. I'm Joe. Subscribe to Rosenville 10, like the video, share the video, leave your comments, help a brother out. I love talking about the Saints. I'm your friend or your coworker, and I want us to have a discussion. You can convince me to look at these things in many ways. Just get in the comments and let me know. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Bye. And who dat?